what the fuck is this? This is like next level.
What is heavy metal for, Steve?
Wow, that is such a hard question. Heavy metal, it was Outcast music.
What song will you listen to?
I remember walking through town in an SOD t-shirt and someone wanted to beat me up. Do you know what guilty pleasures are? People impress me. I am not making music to please everyone ultimately.
You paint that? Vito Bratt.
And he's really interesting, Vito Bratt, because for some people, White Lion's probably very uncool. I think the New Zealand metal scene, the music to me is just so important, and it's something that's...
Are you eyeing for your daughter to like heavy metal?
I have this rule in my house.
There are good and bad in terms of AI, but if you ask AI to write a song, all of them got different vocalists.
Do you know what tall poppy syndrome is? In hindsight, I wish I'd been more cutthroat. Everyone needs to pitch in. There's good bands, and there's good bands who can play live. Some of the time those people just want, who fucking cares? And it comes back before, like I said, the humanness.
Do you believe in catharsis? Have you heard Death Angel?
Absolutely. Filipinos?
Yes.
Gee, do I want to be sad, or do I want to rage? Be brave enough to get out there and find people to play with, and then go play a show. You don't have to like everything, but if you don't have anything good to say, you know, maybe keep it to yourself sometimes. Go to shows, support bands on a local level if you want to support bands.
Is it a difficult question, or?
Yeah, sure. There's 10 million guitarists sitting in their bedroom who are probably technically better than Eddie Van Halen.
Hey, before we jump in, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying the show, please hit that follow or subscribe button. It really helps the channel get noticed, so more people who are into the same stuff can find us. Plus, it will make me happy and inspired to bring in more guests who are great at what they do. Thanks a lot. I feel like it's my first time doing it again.
Sure. Has it been a wee break? Yep.
Kind of like it's been a while since I've done the last other episodes that I'm producing is more of like kind of just me talking.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Obviously, it doesn't make sense if it would make more sense if there would be someone talking with, but I don't know, for some reason I feel like I got this mental block. It's like a creative block, but it's not creative block. Anyway, thank you for letting me in your house, Steve.
Well, you're very welcome anytime. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it. Now, the reason for this podcast is me understanding the whole culture behind metal, and you're one of the favorites in my quest. I asked the group New Zealand Heavy Metal, and then you've been mentioned. Your name has been mentioned this way. Oh, maybe Steve is the guy.
We shall see.
We shall see. Yeah. Nice shirt.
This is a black metal band I was in called Demoniac. It's early 90s.
Early 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
So nice. Right. First, before we begin, maybe you can introduce yourself. And I know you've done a lot of like the albums.
So when I'm talking, do you want me to look at you, or? So I don't need to look at the camera.
You don't need to.
Okay.
If you're not comfortable.
Oh no, I'm very comfortable.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Steve. I'm the drummer and kind of driver of New Zealand metal band Bulletbelt. Been active in the New Zealand metal scene for about 30 years now, and numerous bands over the years, and still driving forward and trying to make stuff happen, and still trying to support and get to as many shows as I can.
When did you start liking the metal? I mean, like metal as a music. Maybe we can step back a little bit and go to the history of your life. Like, how did you come? Who introduced you to metal, and how did you like it? And
well, I was very lucky. I had two older brothers, and both of them were very into music, and they both had pretty decent record and tape collections back in the days. This is the 80s, pre-internet. My oldest brother was more into like classic rock, like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and the Doors and so on. And my next brother up, Jeff, he started in high school, started getting into a lot of punk music, bands like Sex Pistols, Blitz. And this is small town Masterton, which is pretty hard to find stuff that's kind of outside the mainstream. Luckily, we had a couple of really good record stores in our town that kind of imported some pretty interesting music in. So that was kind of my first way in. And then, you know, it's like, you know, you hear Led Zeppelin and then you want to hear a little, so then you might hear AC/DC and you're like, okay, this is a little heavier. And then you might hear Guns N' Roses, and then you might hear Metallica, and you just take those baby steps. So yeah, it just started for me with luckily having those older brothers, and a really key moment for me that I can pinpoint where I guess got the bug was the first time that I heard Van Halen. And when I heard the first Van Halen album, that was a game changer for me. And hearing Eddie Van Halen, you know, make that guitar come to life, that was a real changer for me.
One of my favorite guitarists as well of all time is Vito Bratta.
Oh yeah, White Lion.
White Lion. And then I was thinking about like, oh, this guy is amazing. I wonder who's his kind of like inspiration. I never learned until last year, I think. I read an article somewhere, and he said that one of his inspiration is Van Halen. Like, that makes sense because I was trying to link the way he play and kind of like there's similarity between the two of them.
Yeah, a bit of tapping and so on. And he's really interesting, Vito Bratta, because he's like an enigma, because he was there and then he's gone.
Yeah.
He only did like 2 or 3 albums.
Yeah.
And then he's disappeared off the face of the earth, and he's never reappeared.
Yeah.
Well, he's definitely left a legacy with the limited amount of music that he did. He definitely made an impact.
Yeah.
And I love White Lion.
Yeah, they're so cool. Going back to New Zealand setting, how do you find the metal scene around New Zealand in general?
In general, at the moment, I think the New Zealand metal scene is very healthy. There's a lot of great bands. There's a lot of bands out doing shows. There's a lot of bands releasing good music. There's bands that are DIYing. There's bands that are releasing their own vinyl. There's bands that are touring overseas. There's bands that are touring the States and Europe. So, and in all facets, from the kind of more hard rock through to like, you know, black and death metal. I think the scene in New Zealand is probably the healthiest it's ever been at the moment.
What impact did metal give to you as a human being, and then as a kind of like now obviously you're a father? Yeah,
well, you know, it's a very big part of me, and music, when you're a teenager, music is something where you can find solace, or you can find, you know, you can read the lyrics of your favorite bands, and it's like they get you, you know, when you're a confused teenager and you're heading down that path. So I guess that's where it started. And then those kind of bands and those classic bands that I grew up on, I mean, it becomes part of your soul. And, you know, music to me is just so important, and it's something it gets you through hard times, and it's something that is a highlight of the good times of your life. And so for me, in terms of where heavy metal sits in me, I would say it's a huge part of my makeup. And I've never really, I don't do, do you know what guilty pleasures are? People,
right.
Yeah, I've never done that. It's like, for some people, White Lion's probably very uncool, you know, but for us, I like White Lion now the same as I liked them when I heard them in the 80s. So I think I'm a very loyal fan as well with my bands, and when I get into a band, I really get into a band. And I'm a little bit of, as you can see from my collection, I'm a little bit of an obsessive person, and when I find something I like, I really stick with it, and I like to think I'm pretty loyal. So I guess, and so I'm always there for my bands, but I know that my bands are always here for me. So that's why it's such a big part of me.
Maybe this is ahead of the question now. Is there a song that you like that is not heavy metal?
Yeah, sure. Is
it a difficult question, or?
No, I look, that probably sounds a bit sad to most people, but I still listen to 95% of my listening is heavy metal. But I like some other stuff. I really like this band called the Manic Street Preachers. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a Welsh band. Still kind of rock band, really cool. You know, I'll listen to some softer stuff, but no, if I'm honest about it. But, you know, saying that, I like everything from White Lion through to extreme black metal. So the heavy metal universe now, like, you know, in the
It's so
80s
massive,
it was
yeah.
here. Now it's here. There's just so much going on. And, you know, a white line power ballad sounds considerably different than, you know, some underground black metal from the Philippines or whatever it is. Like, but it's still under the same heavy metal umbrella.
I see metal is kind of like a wide spectrum wherein you have those who are in the mild metal sound to the extreme, like the black metal. There's so many subgenre now.
Too many.
Yeah, too many. I saw someone try to map the whole genre, kind of like, and they just quit. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like it. No, it's too many. Just metal. That's it.
Well, I think for me, as you get older, you just stop caring what other people think. And what I like, what sticks with me is a good song. And a death metal band or a black metal band or a grindcore band or a hair metal band, they have to write a good song for me to like it. So a good song is a good song, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Going back to that cultural impact of heavy metal, how do you think metal music is impacting listeners locally, like Wellington listeners or probably New Zealand listeners, or maybe globally as a whole?
Well, I think most importantly is it brings people together. And it's exciting for me because I have a 14-year-old daughter who's just starting to learn guitar. And I'm really hoping she finds some other people and they start to jam. And that's how it all starts. So, look, at the end of the day, heavy metal, or certainly when in the 80s, it was outcast music. You know, the kids who in my town in Marston in the 80s, you know, I remember walking through town in an SOD t-shirt and someone wanting to beat me up. You know, and we weren't the cool kids at school. So it kind of brings those outcast kids together. It gives them an identity. It gives them a focus, and it's a way for people to connect. You know, we all need to find our people, right? That's part of the human experience. We need to find our people. So I think that's really and we see how huge heavy metal is now internationally. It's massive. I mean, look, Wacken was just on last week.
Have you been there?
I haven't. Oh. I would love to. My friend's band just played last week, but I would love to go. But you know what? 70,000 people come together, so it's massive now. But growing up in Marston in the 80s, it wasn't massive. There was maybe 4 or 5 of us, and we found each other, and that became my people. So that's why it was really important to me, and that's why I think it's still important for young people, as it brings them together.
Are you eyeing for your daughter to like heavy metal, or you're okay with her doing something, or probably listening to something not heavy?
Yeah, I gave up a long time ago trying to push my stuff on my kids. They're like, it's funny, in our house, like when I grew up, my parents were always yelling at me to turn the music down. Now I'm old. My kids are yelling at me to turn the music down. And I'm like, shouldn't this be the other way around? Like, so I actually wish for a time when I'm telling my kids, that's the one rule I have with my kids. If they find new music, I will buy them a CD or whatever it is, like with no questions asked, because I know how important finding music was for me. So I make it a priority for my kids. If they find the music that I like and they want physical product, I will go out of my way. I've bought them both new stereos. I'm encouraging my kids to fall in love with music like I did.
It's more of being artistic in a way. Like your daughter is starting to play guitar, and hopefully that will progress to something else, you know?
Absolutely. They'll find their own way. And look, if she ends up playing pop music or whatever, that's absolutely awesome.
I'm also trying to influence my kids, like my son and my daughter. My son loves playing piano, and kind of like, okay, that's a good start. I mean, like, for example, the Dream Theater, you have piano players there. Like, I forgot his name, Dream Theater piano player. That's a good start. So it's just a matter of like playing every day.
Some of it will seep in, hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. So let's go to your band.
Sure.
So, yeah. So when did you start having a band? So how did you start?
With Bulletbelt?
Bulletbelt, yeah.
So 2009 we started. So actually this year is our 15th anniversary. We're going to be doing a big special show in November to mark 15 years at Valhalla, with some past members joining us on stage, and we're going to make it a big celebration. So it kicked off in 2009. I knew another guy who lived up here in Korori, and I knew that he had a guitar and an amp. And I probably hadn't played for I had a drum kit, but life, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
So I hadn't played for a wee while, and I wanted to get rolling again. So I texted him and said, "Hey, how you doing? Do you still have a guitar?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Let's, come over. Let's just start." So it just started in my lounge.
What's his name? Sorry,
Ross.
Ross. Yeah, the big guy.
Yeah. So Ross and I kickstarted it. I guess it started. The original goal was more to be a little more primitive and like a black metal kind of vibe, but like with most things, it evolved. So yeah, so as the years went by, members come and gone. I've kind of been the only constant from that time through, and it's kind of ebbed and flowed. We've released 5 albums. We've played with many amazing bands. We've toured overseas. We've toured Europe, Japan, Australia multiple times. So yeah, it's been an awesome journey, but hopefully it's just getting started.
Yeah. Since you mentioned about your album, I wrote it here, so I won't forget because my mind sometimes tricks me. I like the song Cosmic. It's kind of like the ballad.
Yeah.
Who wrote that song?
Diego, our vocalist, wrote that. So Diego came on board. He's probably been in the band 3 years now, and that was the first album that he played on. And getting Diego on board, he's someone who can do the traditional Bulletbelt vocal, the more screamy guttural, but he can also sing, and he's got a great voice. So when we were working on the album and we got to that song, we were kind of like, but going back to like the White Lions and the albums you and I grew up on. The albums were always set out so there was always a lot of variation in the songs. Like, even like my favorite bands like Dokken or Wasp or,
right.
Like even like Ride the Lightning, Metallica. There's always like a power ballad on there. That's just part of the makeup of those albums. So I always kind of wanted to do that. We had touched on it in the past on previous albums, but still with the guttural vocals. So when we actually started demoing that song, there was more screaming on it. And I said to Diego, we don't need this. This needs to be stripped down and you need to sing. So that was kind of a little bit scary for us to go that way, but it's actually, it's kind of like taking our chains off. We can kind of just do what we want now. And so going forward into the next album, which we're currently recording at the moment, there's certainly a lot more of that going down that path.
Ballads and stuff.
Well, not so much.
Not so much, right?
But more singing.
Singing. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, more singing. Yeah.
Okay. One thing that I like about heavy metal is even how heavy your music is. When you write a ballad, it's kind of like really a ballad. Like you get those goosebumps coming from your behind and go here and kind of like, that song is amazing. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of like what's my all-time favorite? Testament. It's Return to Serenity. Sorry.
Yeah, great song.
Yeah.
And that's another band. Like you look at the first few Testament albums, they wouldn't have touched a ballad.
No.
It was just
heavy.
Balls to the wall thrash. Yeah. And probably same thing. They realize, why should we be restricted to this? Why should there be rules? And it's funny in like, in heavy metal and what is termed extreme heavy metal. To me, a lot of it is anything but extreme. It's it's a lot of bands doing the same as a million other bands are doing. The production values are so good these days, but it's also the production values are so good, it's lost a lot of the character of the great albums that we grew up on because it's just so digitized and pro-tooled now, and it's just perfection. It's lost that a little bit of modern extreme metal to me has lost a little bit of its humanness.
Having a good production is okay, but in terms of like writing it as a human being, because I heard someone like, my AI can write a song. Like, what? Where's
Yeah.
the experience in there? I mean, like,
Exactly.
you write a song because you see the world like this one. You just write it down so everyone can relate to it, right? But if you ask AI to do it, I mean, there are good and bad in terms of AI. But if you ask AI to write a song, that's kind of like, okay, that's not productive in terms of creative art.
No. And it's really interesting now, like having a 14 and an 11-year-old, they hear all their new music on TikTok. So you and I would go to a record store. I would get into a band, I would read the thanks list of my favorite band or whatever t-shirt they happen to be wearing in their photo on the album, and I would go and try and find that band. That's how I would get into music, into new music. Whereas now it's just 15-second sound bites on TikTok. And that's, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm old. Well, I am.
Oh.
But, at least I think we're very lucky at our ages. We are the last people of that generation where music wasn't just, 15-second sound bites. It was albums. And when I was, growing up, I would only have enough money to buy maybe one album a month.
Right.
Or 2 albums a month. So I would immerse myself in that album because we didn't have the internet. I couldn't go on YouTube and flick through 5,000 songs. So I would have this cassette, and you would live with that cassette, and you would know every single bit. Every second of that cassette would become embedded in your DNA.
Plus the lyrics, like, oh, let's sing. I remember the Black album of Metallica. That's the first metal album that I have after buying the Guns N' Roses. We were talking about Guns N' Roses a while ago. I was looking at, like, I thought it was just a boring, like, Black album, kind of like Black album. And then you can see the thing, oh, this is cool. Now you see them, the faces are kind of like grayish, dark grayish, something like that. And then you have the lyrics. Read all the lyrics.
Yeah.
And then you will hear like the Nothing Else Matters, and then sing with it, with the lyrics. That's it. You don't browse your phone and kind of
exactly.
like you get the paper from the album cover, and then that's where the lyrics is.
Yeah, and even going back further, when vinyl was first, like the 70s and the 80s, it's this. You're listening to Number of the Beast or whatever it is, and there's that album cover, and it's like, wow. So it's the whole experience. Whereas music has really changed now, and now for my kids growing up, music is a 5-second soundbite maybe, and if you can't grab people in that 5 seconds on TikTok, then
Exactly.
So look, it's a different world, and no doubt there's so many good quality bands around now. Like there's almost too much to listen to, right?
Going back to your albums, Burn It Up. Sorry, not Burn It Up. Rise of the Banshee. That's the first album you got, right?
No, that's the second one.
Down.
First one was called Down in the Cold of the Grave, and there's the original painting right there on the wall.
Wow.
Yeah.
You paint that?
No, I wish. No, a very talented Wellington artist called Nick Keller. He painted that, and he's done. He's a little bit quieter these days. I'm not sure what Nick's up to, but he's certainly. Do you know the Wellington band Beast Wars?
Yes, sludge metal.
Yeah. So he's kind of part of their thing, and he's done all their artwork, and he's Black Dahlia Murder. He's painted for them, and yeah. And so he did ours. That's 2013, excuse me. And I think I'm the only person that he's sold one of them to. So he paints it for you. You get the artwork, but he keeps the original. Whereas I pestered him so much that he sold me that.
The original.
Yeah.
Right.
He'll still have the original. He'll just take the photograph for the artwork.
Wow.
Yeah. After I pestered him enough.
Wow.
Because you see what I have to. It's my obsessive collecting.
That's a good painting.
It's a very cool painting.
Sorry, I lost my...
No, that's fine.
I was like, appreciating the painting. Rise of the Banshee after that, right?
Yep.
And then you had your 9
Centuries.
Warlords and Burn It Up. All of them got different vocalists.
So first album we had Fergus. Then Jolene sang on Rise of the Banshee and 9 Centuries. We had a female vocalist. We had Paul sang on Warlords, and now we have Diego. and we're pretty hopeful we'll hang on to Diego. We've got a good lineup. We're good.
Yeah,
We're tight.
Yeah, the voice of Diego is so cool. When I was hearing the Burn the Witch,
That's that's a cool song. That's Diego. Yeah,
kind of like an anthem. When I heard Burn the Witch,
Yeah.
Burn the Witch, something like that. Like, oh, this is a cool song.
very cool. Yeah.
Who writes the song in your band?
It's a group effort. So Josh, our guitarist, is bringing a lot of great song ideas to the band. That's how it starts. He's bursting at the seams, bringing material through, which is a good place to be. And then I guess my job is the structure of the song, the layout, making sure we're trimming the fat. And that's one thing, as being a band for so long. That's what you learn doing it for so long. Sometimes less is more. So that's where we're at the moment. It's trimming and trimming. Diego will, kind of on the last album, Diego wrote half the lyrics, I wrote half the lyrics. So we're kind of doing that a little bit. Josh will chime in. Josh wrote Arminius. He wrote the lyrics to that one. And Tim, our bass player, he's got a very unique bass playing style. So he brings a really cool flavor to the songs. Chucking him in there changes the dynamic. He doesn't just play to the guitar riff. We've got to hold him back half the time. Good problem to have. And we've got Isaac there, who's also like extremely talented guitarist. So we're in a really good space at the moment. And with the last album, it was kind of Josh and myself and Tim, and then the other guys came into the band a little later when we'd written. But we're actually, at the moment, we're writing the new album, and we've actually recorded one song. We're recording at the moment, and it's a real team effort,
Right.
which is great. So everyone's contributing, but we need to. Sometimes we need to make hard decisions, and we need to be very professional. And it's not about hurting anyone's feelings or anything. It's about being really disciplined in our songwriting at the moment, and all killer, no filler.
How do you usually get your inspiration?
For me, every day, I like I told you before, I do a lot of running, and when I run, that's when I get most of my ideas. I like putting my earbuds in and running all the awesome trails around here, and I'd stop, write it down, or I take a screenshot. Also, a lot of inspiration from being very fortunate to play some great shows with some great bands that I grew up listening to, and touring Europe and touring Japan and taking in the culture and seeing how these other bands operate, and just take a little bit of that and take a little bit of that and take a little bit of that. Always trying to learn so these bands here who are playing Wacken, what are they doing differently from us? What can we learn from them? So always being open to new ideas, and how can we take our band forward? How can we be more professional? How are these guys writing a song? And if the further you go up the tree in terms of being a bigger band, you'll find just trimming away all the fat. And when you start off, generally songs are too long, repeating parts too much, trying to throw the kitchen sink at it. But as you progress and you get a little older and you get a little more experience and a little more world experience, you start to realize that trimming and making the songs a little more dynamic and catchy is what we're trying to do. There's a really great quote from Alice Cooper. He said, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus."
Oh.
I always come back to that, and I always throw it at the guys like, it's just why we don't need this part. It's not there. The songs aren't there. Once we release the songs into the world, they're no longer ours. Once they're released, they're out to the world. They're the world's. So we need to make sure when we release them into the world that they are ready for, they're not for us. They're not about, for want of a better term, it's music wankery. It's not about showing how clever we are. It's about writing, like I said before, writing good songs. So that's what we're all about.
So what do you think is, in terms of conveying the message to your fans, like a while ago I was talking about the Burn the Witch, right? It's kind of like an anthem now running in my head.
Yeah.
Right? How do you think that impacts your fans? I mean, in terms of songwriting, in terms of messaging, how do you think that is being accepted by the fans?
Yeah, look, I think it's really important. And once again, going back to touring, the more extensively we've toured, we've been put in situations like touring Europe where we are opening a show in front of 500 people who have never heard us before. So we have to grab them instantly. So that's why we have hooks like Burn the Witch or these other songs. So yeah, it's about writing songs for the live experience as well, and being a keen fan myself. And I know when I go and see a band, I want a hook or I want a chorus that's gonna pull me in, and I need to believe that the singer or the band believe what they're telling you. It's real. So that's really important too. It's got to come from
within.
Yeah, it's got to come from here. So yeah.
How do you see the metal scene or metal as a music maybe in New Zealand or Wellington? How do you see that coming through in the future? Like, do you think it's gonna go bigger, or it's gonna go? Are we gonna have more metalheads listening to metal music?
I think so. Look, there are a lot of bands. 10% of those bands will go, because the key things that make a band are people who are reliable, people who can turn up to band practice every week and contribute, people who go and practice their parts and turn up, people who can bring skills to the band, whether it's social media skills, whether it's design skills, whether it's engineering skills. Because as you start in a band, it's DIY. The band you're not outsourcing. You don't have the income. You don't have the connections when you're kind of a younger band and getting started. So you need to be a successful band and to rise above what I call, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to the scene, what I would call a local band level. Bands that are just really happy playing their city once a month, and band practice might be drinking club as well, and that's great. Like, that's really cool. And those bands, like, go for it. But for the bands that want to go further, I think then people need to be a little more professional, and that's what you learn when you tour and get overseas. Things are a lot more professional. Kiwis, there's so many good things about the Kiwi culture, the DIY and the go-get-'em attitude, and let's get stuck in. But then on the other hand, we're very we'll cut people down. We have this thing called, do you know what tall poppy syndrome is?
I heard that term from my friend.
Yeah, so it's like we will criticize people
Right.
once they start getting successful. So, and I think that holds a lot of people back. People are almost scared to go that extra mile to be successful. So I think bands can rise above in New Zealand and go abroad and make it internationally, but they need to be hardworking, they need to be professional, they need everyone in the band to contribute in some way. Everyone needs to hit and play their part. I know some very talented bands and some incredible musicians in this city and in this country, and unfortunately they've only got one person in that band that's trying to drive everything, and it gets very hard in the end.
Is it healthy? No. Do you think that's healthy for the band?
No. Look, that's fine. Eventually that person's probably going to go, you know what, guys, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to join this band, or I'm going to start something new. And you see it all the time. So for some people, being in a band, like I said, is going to band practice, drinking beer, playing their home city once a month, and sharing their band's social media on their own personal Facebook page once for the show. And that's all they contribute. Mm. Whereas the bands who go on and do more, whether it's touring out of New Zealand, whether it's getting good international support slots, they have their shit together somewhat.
Going back to your influence, I know Van Halen's your, as I understand it, is one of your influences. And how did you arrive to heavy music, given from, this is the spectrum of the heavy metal. We have the so heavy side of things, and then we have just the kind of not so heavy playing. how did you arrive to from starting here and now you're playing somewhere here?
Well, in the 90s, when I really started to discover heavy music, obviously the death metal explosion in the early 90s, we were still pretty lucky, although, you know, we were limited to my local record stores. I actually worked at my local record store in Masterton, and my boss was awesome, and he would take me down once a month to a big warehouse in Wellington, which was called JREM. And JREM used to import from Nuclear Blast, and it was called Road Racer back then, which is kind of like pre-Roadrunner. So through that, I was introduced to like Entombed and Dismember and Immolation and Pestilence and Obituary and all these bands. So I started bringing those into the town, and then that spread, and then all of a sudden there was a little scene. Some bands started popping up in my town. I was part of that scene. And then you just meet people, and I actually I had a friend called Lindsay who lived in England for a while, and he came back, and while in England he'd been introduced to the black metal scene. So all of a sudden he was bringing demo tapes of like Burzum and Mayhem and all these bands, and so we'd been listening to death metal. All of a sudden I was like, what the fuck is this? This is like next level. Like the production's a bit shitter, but there's this mystique about it. So I got heavily influenced to that there. So it's just connections and meeting people. He was also a very big tape trader.
Right,
So-
that's what I'm about to ask. Like, have you started tape trader like globally? I have a friend that he still does it today. Like,
Well, that's cool.
he sent it somewhere in Sweden. I forgot the country, but somewhere in Europe. Like, what? How are you? How do you make sure that arrives to the person? I mean, like,
Yeah.
you send it, and it's tape, kind of like tape, and then that can easily be.
It's keeping it alive. It's cool. Look, I personally never got heavily into the tape trading, but I had Lindsay. Luckily, we had Lindsay, and he was certainly into that. So he started taping me. You know, and you remember in the old days, I'd steal my sister's Mariah Carey tape, put some tape over the thing, and tape Burzum over the top, you know, whatever. That's what you did back then. So, no, I was certainly not in the scene, but I luckily had connections who were. So I managed to get introduced to some really cool stuff quite early, which was lucky.
I wasn't able to do that experience, like trading tapes, and kind of like probably I don't trust our post mail.
Sure.
Mail company back in Philippines, but yeah, because it's so like they're so what you call that because it's cassette tape, and you can easily damage that.
Yeah. No, I remember like filling out a form to like so there was this company called Blue Grape, and they basically did all the death metal merch worldwide. So I remember like giving my dad my pocket money that I'd saved up doing a milk run, so he could write me a check, which I would send in an envelope to the States to order like an Obituary t-shirt, a Pestilence t-shirt, and something else, and then check the letterbox every day for about the next 3 months until luckily they turned up. So that was the, you know.
Did they turn up?
They turned up. It took about 3 months. I'd almost given up, and I did a little bit of not trading, but I would certainly buy some things and send your money off and hope like hell it turns up 2 or 3 months later. Yeah.
The only thing that I remember when I was doing what I was doing in the 90s is I was writing letters to bands in the US to be part of the fan club or something like that.
Oh,
Like,
cool.
I remember writing one to Soundgarden before, like writing to, can you please join me to a fan club, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I kind of feel like I'm the only one writing to the States for a fan club because we don't have internet back then, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like so handwritten. I have the yellow paper.
Oh, yeah.
Writing down and asking them to be a fan guy, and then luckily they sent back, and then I'm a member, blah blah blah, and then
Very cool.
yeah, they give me a card or something like fan club. You're now a fan club member, but obviously I didn't get much of the perks because I'm in the Philippines and they're in the US, and a lot of the things that they're doing is within the country. So, but that's okay. At least I got the card.
Yeah, and that's how they grew. That's how they grew their fan base.
Yeah.
You felt that you were part of the team.
In terms of your experience going to live concerts and playing to bigger crowds, do you have fear? Like I'm kind of like trembling now. I feel like I don't want to play yours.
Well, luckily for me, I'm right at the back on the drums. So the boys up the front have got to take all the heat. Half the time, you know, people can't even see the poor old drummer at the back. But not so much fear. I approach a show like I approach if I'm doing an Ironman or if I'm doing an event. Like we said, I do running, and like it's the same kind of mental approach for me. It's more about being really planned on my parts and pacing my set and understanding, you know, because we know we've practiced so much, so I know the bits when it's a little more challenging for me, and I'm like, so I'm mentally prepared for those moments. So I approach drumming and our shows a little bit more like I would if I was doing a sporting event, like I'm in that kind of mentality. Because like I said before, that's my job. I coach swimming. So I can't kind of get out of that mindset half the time, yeah.
Yeah, and do you play drums here or you practice somewhere with the band?
We have a rehearsal space which is in an industrial area, luckily, where we can't annoy anyone. Yeah. When I was in my teens and early 20s, you know, just who cares? You just annoy the neighbors and they can handle it. But as you get older, you don't want any stress in your life. So yeah, it's not worth it. No one needs noise control coming around when we're band practicing.
Right. Any challenging moments with your band in terms of experience since the beginning?
The hardest challenge for me of Bulletbelt's history has been, how do I say this? Continuing to drive the band forward and hold the band to its values while having some members who didn't quite slot into those values that the band needed to be. And probably going back a little bit before what I spoke about with the local band mentality. Yeah. And once again, I do not want to sound arrogant when I say this, but this band has always been about holding itself to a higher standard than wanting to be at that level, and having some members come and go who brought their local band mentality to something that was trying to be a little more than that. And in hindsight, I wish I'd been more cutthroat. I wish I had not taken shit and lowering of the standards. You know, I wish I had drawn a firmer line in the sand, clearer. That to me now we realize 15 years on, and with a really professional lineup of good people that want to work together, that's what's required. You can't have dead weight. If we're going to be a successful band, or coming back again to being a swimming coach, a successful team, everyone needs to pitch in, and we need to be all of the same mindset, heading in the same direction.
So how do you do that in terms of, obviously you need to instill, if that's the right term that I'm using, you need to instill your values to the band as a whole, not just you believe in something and they don't believe in something that you believe in. I mean, like, everyone should contribute, you mentioned, and everyone should have the only way you can do that is you have the same values. You believe on the same thing, and then you have the same goal. How do you do that?
Communication, planning, prep. We're all busy. We're all older now. Some of the guys in Bulletbelt are in other bands as well. So we're very planned. We're talking, what are we doing in 12 months? What are we doing in 24 months? We have a diary where everything is mapped out. So as we get busier, that's a big part of it. Understanding there will be differences of opinion. We won't always agree, and that's fine. That's healthy. But being able to work professionally through those things, not taking things personally. You know, we all want the same outcome. We want to write great music. We want to play great shows. We want to have these cool experiences of touring and playing with like-minded bands and meeting cool people. So, like preparation. And we've learned that with making albums. Pre-production is everything. We're, as I said, we've started recording, and we've been working on this for 12 months at least to get to this point. So prep, like anything.
Right. And who's your producer for the new album?
We're working with a guy called Damien Reynard, and he's based in the States. So we are recording our parts here, and we're sending him all the files. It's the first time we've done this. We're in the studio for so this is a different way of doing it. He came highly recommended. He's made albums for Dragon Force, Baby Metal, like, so it's about us saying, okay, like, if we want to actually be a true international class metal band, we need to think a bit more worldly. And what are these bands on Nuclear Blast or these big metal labels or Century Media or whatever, what are they doing? So that's, like I said before, it's about trying to look a little further afield than what's going on here.
Right. You record them here and then send them through. Yeah. Oh, is it a difficult process in a way?
Easiest help. Like, it's been so good.
Okay.
Sorry, now you go.
No, I'm just curious because obviously different time zones, geographically speaking, too far away, and then you send them all the music to the producer, and then how do you communicate? Kind of like those barriers.
Yeah, we've had some video chats, and a lot of it's just back and forth on email. And like I said, a lot of it is pre-production. So he's hearing the demos, and he can put in suggestions there. So when we actually get to the point where we're recording the parts and sending it to him for him to produce, we're kind of 95% there. We know, and he knows what we want. When he sends it back, we're like, wow, he's very talented, is Damien, and we're really excited for the next release. It's already next level Bulletbelt, like bigger and better than we've ever been.
Wow, I'm so looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I've heard most of the songs in your albums since 2012. Yeah. And of course I can't memorize them all, but yeah, some of the likes that I did mention a while ago. So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
Any arguments that you've had in the band, and how did you settle them, if you had any?
Like the band now?
Yeah. Like writing music, of course, it's like brothers and sisters, right? You'll fight, argue because you can't agree on something. So how did you?
We're arguing today we have a message thread. It's like, and that's healthy. Arguing's probably not the word,
What's the best word?
Musical disagreements.
Right.
And it's a democracy, but it's also not. Like, I don't stand there saying, this is my band. It's not like that at all. The five of us, it's very important that we're a band. But there's also some standards, or not some standards, there's some non-negotiables as well with the band. Like, where do we, like you spoke about Cosmic before, and that was way out here for us. But there'd be maybe things that we wouldn't do, that we wouldn't agree. And, some of the band members would want to go further than that. But I might be the one that says, no, this is going outside the values. So we all have our own opinions. We all bring our own influences into the band, and it's really healthy debate. Debate is encouraged. And if we have disagreements on parts, we're having a disagreement at the moment. Not a disagreement, we're having a strong discussion about a guitar solo that's going to maybe be on a song. And that's healthy. We'll get to the right decision in the end, I think.
So if someone is his name Josh? Your lead guitarist?
Josh.
Your lead guitarist, right? If there's a guitar piece that you don't like, you can just let him know, or does he have it's his call? If this is my solo and we can't change it, blah blah blah.
No, we can change it. It's a democracy. It's important that we all can, because we're all hearing things a little differently, right? You'll hear something, you'll hear something in a song that I won't hear. So no, absolutely. And like I said, we've got to the next album, if we truly want to put the work in to become a true international level metal band and play fucking, it all needs to be here.
On that level.
It needs to be here. So we've got to be hard on ourselves. And if he comes back to me and says those drum parts are shit, I will listen.
That's okay.
I will listen to that. Absolutely. I don't take that personally. We're a band. We're brothers. Yeah.
And you need to look after one another, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of that kind of goal in mind, how long does it take to produce just one song? I'm just curious, maybe some of the listeners will be curious as well if they wanted to produce their own album. How long does it take?
How long is a piece of string?
Yeah. Of course, writing is a different part, right? It can take as long as it can take, right? If you write a song. But in terms of like, we already have the materials, we have the instrument, and we're ready to produce it.
It could probably be done in a month or a little more. Because so we will record our parts, we will send them off. Damien will weave his magic, and then we'll get a first mix one. And then we will say to Damien, we like this, and this, but we would also like this. And he might say, no, that doesn't work. And we'll go, so there's the producer and the band need to also, because he's the producer, we are paying him and we are hiring him to do that, to oversee, to bring in his 2 cents, and to be the one sometimes that tells us that's not good enough, or you need to do this, and this. So yeah, it can take a month, probably longer, because we might get 3 or 4 or 5 versions of the song until we're happy with the mix, levels and parts. And you know, we're bringing in a lot of backing vocals, like you spoke about Burn the Witch before. So we're a lot more going down that avenue with big choruses, with lots of layered vocals, and we're outsourcing some friends of ours and some people we know to add their voices on that. So bringing all those parts in can take a little while. And then once we get to the finished mix, then the music will get mastered. And that's like sprinkling the salt on top and making it all shine. And
once you have that album released, obviously you're gonna need to tour across the country. Is that a goal?
Yeah, look, it's as you know, living here, it's a small place and it's a small metal scene. And we've done some tours where we have set the goal to go and play every single small town we can. To try and, we've played like Marston, Kaitaia, Timaru, places you probably never even heard of. Some small towns. So next year, when we release the next album, we don't really have a plan of attack around that yet. But we may do an expensive tour. A lot of bands will just say we're just playing Auckland and Wellington and Christchurch, because they know they can get a turnout. Where in the past, what we've tried to do is take a metal show to a small town, because I grew up in a small town, and the few bands that came through my town when I was a teenager made a huge impact on me. I remember like my first show, you know, when I'm like 13 in Masterton going to see a band, I'm like, holy shit, you know. So it's important for us too that we can do that and spread the message and hopefully inspire people.
And how's the kind of like the way the audience has accepted the band? How's the vibe? Kind of?
I think the vibe is very good. You know, without trying to blow my own trumpet, I think we're turning into a good live band. We're 15 years in. It takes time. You need, like, there's good bands and there's good bands who can play live, like really play live and bring the audience in. And I think we're there. We have a great front man. Everyone's got awesome energy on stage. We've got great songs. We're learning how to work off each other on stage. So, and once again, going back to, I guess, the New Zealand local scene, that kind of stuff isn't really thought of a lot. It's like that tall poppy syndrome or that Kiwi thing about not wanting to like be a show off, or it's kind of frowned upon a little bit, and more on the extreme side of things about putting on a show and having a front man who's like, come on, and you know, it's just head down and we'll see at the end of the song, you know, and that's a big part of the scene. What we've found as our sound has diversified and we've started doing cosmic and singing, we've started playing more shows, not with just more extreme death metal bands, but we've started playing shows with more like power metal bands, like we're playing with Amaranth in a few weeks, and it's a very different audience.
Yes.
Very different. So the more extreme audiences in New Zealand are like, impress me. this is shit. I'm going out the back of Valhalla to drink some beers. Whereas the power metal fans are just like,
They just
they just love it. So it's been really interesting. And when we toured Europe last year and played with a band from Brazil called Semblant, who are a little more like that, we got to play in front of those crowds every night, and it was awesome. Not shitting on the more extreme crowds, but you know, the more extreme crowds, some of the time those people just want,
right.
they just want 30 minutes of that, and that's cool too. I like that stuff too.
There are different, like, I'll use the word values. Every audience has different values, and if you're playing kind of like black metal, you see different crowds kind of in terms of attitude, not good or bad, it doesn't matter. And then if you're playing with Amaranth, you said it's power metal and it's
party time.
It's kind of like party time, so it's a different crowd. So how do you handle those kind of like that tall poppy syndrome? How do you handle if some of the fans probably is gonna say, you change you now have your ballad. You don't used to have ballads. Now you shifted a little bit, like Metallica when they have the Black Album.
Yeah.
Many thrash metal fans like, that's not trash, I don't like it, which is kind of cool as well. If they don't like it, then that's okay, it's their choice at the end of the day. So how do you handle those kinds of instances?
We just get up and do our thing, and we just bring 100% energy and positivity to the show, and we will grab most people in that crowd by the end of the show. We're not going to please everyone. That's fine. I accepted that a long time ago. I am not making music to please everyone. Ultimately, I'm making music for myself, and once we put it out there, if other people love it, that's awesome too. But for us to, do you remember Captain Universe or Captain Planet?
Captain Planet,
when they put the rings together?
Yeah.
That's what one like on stage. So once Bulletbelt, once the five of us come together, I think we are doing something special, and I think we've turned into a really good live band, and hopefully we can grab the people that are watching us. We're not going to grab everyone. That's fine. Go have a beer and go out the back of Valhalla.
Yeah.
No problem.
So how do you handle those? Like, do you carry them on until you go home and like, they're also able to please my fans?
No, it's really weird being a band, and most bands will relate to this. You come off stage and you might have played a fucking 95% blinder of a show, but if you made one mistake, if I fucked up or dropped the stick, it's all you fucking think about. Whereas the people in the show people watching probably didn't even see.
Because they had banging, like, so.
Yeah, so it's really interesting when we all come off stage how we decide or discuss if it was a good show. Four of us might be buzzing, and one of the members is because they made few mistakes on one song. So who freaking cares? And it comes back before, like I said, the humanness. It's not supposed to be perfect.
Right.
Like, it's good. So it's really interesting. And like I said, I think a lot of bands will relate to that. The people come off stage and that's all they remember.
Yes, and okay, are you gonna?
Sorry,
yeah, sure. In terms of the live acts, I saw you open for Dragon Force as well. Like,
oh, cool.
Yeah. So how does it feel opening for like Carcass, Dragon Force, and other big acts on the metal scene?
It's great. I mean, it's a different experience. You know that the night's not about you, but you think of it as a huge opportunity to grab some people, because you can guarantee there's going to be a lot of people there who have never seen you before. So you need to, and a lot of the time you might not get a sound check because it's all about the main band. And we've played shows before. I've played at Valhalla where my drum kit is set up in front of, imagine that, on that stage. But you just make the most of it. It's a can-do attitude. You're right, darling. You can go through.
Yeah, you can. Feel free.
It's okay. So you just got to grab the opportunity, and you just got to seize the moment and say, "This, how cool is this? Right. We have these people. We are warming up these people for this great band behind us. We have to leave our mark. We have to make sure they walk out that door tonight and they remember who we are."
Do you believe in catharsis?
Explain.
Catharsis. It's kind of like, I just saw this one someone made a video about metalheads and heavy metal music, and they were focusing more on the back end, and why heavy metal fans are happy people, kind of like that. And then they explain catharsis in a way that is you're cleansing your, let's say you're sad today, right?
Yeah.
You listen to heavy metal, and then after that, you've cleansed your sadness or depression or whatever. And then because it's a fast beat and kind of like you submerge yourself to adversity, something like that.
I do. And in fact, I probably do it on a daily basis. For example, it's winter blues. I've, been a bit up and down this week, and then I had band practice last night, and I came out of band practice feeling amazing because I got to play music and I got to jam with those guys and practice our songs. And then, I just went for a run earlier today, and I had my earbuds in, and I listened to I just had a random mix on, and I listened to some old school death metal today, actually, like Morbid Angel and Pestilence, and some songs I hadn't heard for. I was like, wow, forgot how amazing this song is. So yeah, it lifts me. I don't get a lot of free time. I'm a very busy man, but any free time I have, I am listening to music.
Right.
I'm not watching TV. I'm absorbing myself in my record collection, which you've seen. So yes, on a daily basis.
Have you heard Death Angel?
Absolutely. Filipinos.
Yes.
Of course.
Kirk Hammett, half Filipino.
Yeah, he produced the first Death Angel album, the Ultraviolence.
Yes, kind of like, goosebumps.
Yeah, well, they used to be all Filipino. I think there's only like 2 or 3 now. I saw them. They've played here. I saw them at San Fran, maybe opening for Sepultura like 3 or 4 years ago.
Right. What song will you listen to for 48 hours on repeat?
Wow, that's a hard one.
Just one song.
One song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like you're only able to bring one of your records.
One of my. Any song?
One song. Yeah.
Wow, that is such a hard question.
Is it? Because there's a lot of songs.
Do I want to be sad, or do I want to rage for 48 hours? I mean, sometimes I will listen to a power ballad. If I'm running, I'll rewind it and listen to it 4 or 5 times in a row, because it's kind of like, and I might even, a few tears might fall down my eyes as I'm running the trails. Or then I might put on something like Judas, like, to me, classic album like Judas Priest, Painkiller. I have this rule in my house: when Judas Priest, Painkiller is on, it cannot be turned off until the album is completed.
Really?
If people are having beers with me and we put Painkiller on, there's a rule. Whole album.
Right. I used to play like Vulgar Display of Power, like end to end on repeat. And then if there's one song for me, it will be In This River by Zakk Wylde, like the live one.
Yeah,
live. I mean, kind of like so cool. I don't know. And also, if I can choose another one, I'm cheating now.
Yeah.
Cemetery Gates.
Cemetery Gates. Okay, I will choose. I'll go right back. I will choose Child in Time by Deep Purple.
Okay.
The live version of Made in Japan in '72.
Right.
Ian Gillan, soaring the vocals.
Yeah.
And something else, I would probably choose something off Wasp. First Wasp album, like...
Is that the one in the cross?
It's just got all them on the cover. They're all standing there. Yeah, something off the first Halen, maybe. Something like that. Yeah.
In terms of inspiration, what will you advise to future generations who would like to, pick a guitar or drumstick, a bass or whatever, or write a song?
I would advise to find people to play with. Like I said before, with my daughter starting to learn guitar, it's great. But my hope is that she finds a drummer or a bass player or a fellow guitarist, and they start playing together, because that's to me is that connection of playing music with other people. There's so many amazing. There's probably, as we know now with YouTube and so on, there's 10 million guitarists sitting in their bedroom who are probably technically better than Eddie Van Halen, but can they write Eruption? Of course they can't. So it's easy now with music to go on YouTube and learn how to all these amazing techniques. There's so many great players. It's ridiculous. But to find their own flavor and find their own way, I think people need to be brave enough to get out there and find people to play with, and then go play a show. Be brave. So many people, there's so much anxiety in the world now, and people are frightened or have so anxious to, as you know, you've got kids, you know, our kids these days, there's so much anxiety in the world. I think that I'd really, hopefully, young people can start playing shows. So there's the next scene. A scene is only as good as its next young people coming through, right? We need young people playing.
Regardless of type of music, right? As long as it's more on the creative space, because a lot of anxieties now is coming from, like, for me personally, sometimes if you have pressure at work, that's gonna be a huge challenge. So I need to divert myself to something talking to you, so at least I can communicate to someone as well outside from home.
No, I understand absolutely, and that's what music is to me. It's away from my job, and it's away from all the bullshit in life.
So how long have you been doing the swimming? That's your job, right?
I've been swim coach for about 20 years now. It's my profession.
Do you love it?
I love it.
Where did you learn? Wellington or?
I started coaching in Wellington 20 years ago, just part-time, and it kind of grew from there. I was from a sporting background as a kid and a teenager, and had kind of kept my hand in it, and then it just kind of fell into it when those opportunities came along, and here I am. It's it's still work. It's good 90% of the time, but it's still work. Sometimes I've got to work through those things, but I do realize how lucky I am to be doing my lifestyle of being a swim coach and getting to play music and having an awesome family and having a great record collection to listen to and having a great group of friends. I'm very lucky that I have good balance in my life. I think it's really important that people have balance. It can't just be all work and pressure. As you get older, you work it out. You got to find balance, or otherwise that anxiety and the negative stuff can become too much.
Going back to your band, did you learn how to play drums from school or self-taught?
Like teenager, when I kind of late teens, few lessons, mostly self-taught, real punk rock attitude. I'm not the most technical drummer in the world. I play drums to serve the song, always have. My favorite drummers are like the classic guys like Phil Rudd, AC/DC. Like, it's so freaking simple. People laugh, but man, that guy drives the songs along. Dave Lombardo, all those great guys. So I guess mostly self-taught.
I missed the wind set. Is it your band as well, or is it a kind of like you session?
It's a band. It's new. I started it. I like pulled the people that I wanted in. Said, let's do this.
What's the genre is that?
Black metal. So we're just looking at putting on another show. I don't have the time for it to become too busy. I want it to, so we won't play too often because we're all too busy. Make it special when we play. Want to do a recording. We'll do a demo first and then we'll do a proper recording. So just, without taking up anyone else's too much time.
Are your group band members from Bulletbelt all coming from Wellington, apart from Diego? I know Diego is from Christchurch.
Diego's in Christchurch. Josh is in Palmerston North.
Right.
So here is myself, Isaac, guitarist, Tim, bass player, and we kind of have like a reserve guitarist. So Finn, and he's in Windswept as well. So he knows the Bulletbelt set. So we practice here. So we have two guitarists. So he steps in, and Josh comes in every couple of weeks.
Right.
So we still practice, the four of us, every week, sometimes 2 times a week. So we're always tight. And then Diego comes in and it's easy because Diego is very professional.
Right. I forgot to ask you this question. We're still recording anyway. What's heavy metal for you? What is heavy metal for Steve?
What is heavy metal? Wow, that's an interesting question. Heavy metal is rebellion and freedom and fuck the world, let's go, that's like, let's fucking go.
kind of like, here comes nothing.
Exactly. It's about, come on. That's the heavy metal spirit to me.
Final message.
You know, the world's so freaking negative. Social media has brought so much negativity, and you just need to go on Facebook on a daily basis and you see people shitting on everyone. It's just like, you don't have to like everything, but if you don't have anything good to say, you know, maybe keep it to yourself sometimes. Show some more support. Go to shows, support bands on a local level. If you want to support bands, buy a t-shirt, buy a CD, buy a record, go to a show. Bring positivity to the world. We all need it.
Where can they find you?
You find us on Facebook or Instagram, Bulletbelt. We've got our own website where you can buy our merch. Talking about buying merch. We're DIY still, so it's how we.
You print here? Sorry, do you print here?
Mostly, I'm starting to outsource a little more as this country gets very expensive. Yeah. With the cost of living, you know, everything's like printing t-shirts here is becoming very expensive. But mostly, yeah. But we're very much DIY. We're self-driven. So any support we get from anyone is hugely appreciated.
Yeah.
We don't take it for granted at all. Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Cool. I know you're so busy, but you still like message me like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, man. I'm always keen to chat and thank you. And this is the most professional setup I think I've seen. So
thank you.
You're doing a good job.
Appreciate it.
Okay, man. Thank you, bro.
No worries. Thank you. Right. So going back a little step, going back one step back. My English is eating me. Thank you for coming. I came here. Thank you for letting me in your house, Steve.
And inspired to bring more.
Help me, help me.